All right, mic check, mic check, mic check. I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to the Most High while you have beside it. Welcome to another Sabbath lesson. All praises, messengers of the covenant. Happy Independence Day. Happy 4th of July. Happy birthday, America. Not. Definitely not doing that. Definitely not doing that, man. This place is bound for destruction and burning and everlasting judgment. So let's not play no games with that. That's real talk, as they say. Uh, Prayerfully, man, everybody's doing well on the Shabbat. Um, we're going to get into the continuation. Saying it for a hot second. I want to continue on with the trumpets. We covered the first four a few months back, um, dealing with Revelation, the eighth chapter. We're going to deal with chapter 9, okay, and deal with the fifth trumpet, the first woe. This is, my understanding, our understanding regarding this particular chapter. I know there's some who say that this fifth trumpet was World War One and World War Two. I don't see it that way. I had that understanding years ago, but this particular woe has not occurred yet. We'll be entering into that in the very near future as we see things playing out throughout the earth and prophecies unfolding. But this isn't talking about World War One and World War Two. So let's get into it, man. Prayerfully, everybody's doing well. If you have not already, man, make sure to hit that like button, man. In other words, wipe your feet when you come on in here so we can get to it. Okay. Um, Couple of things we need to take note of when we're reading this. Just like when we read in many of the scriptures, let me share my screen. We read many a time in the scriptures things that are metaphorical, things that are considered similitudes. All right. So when we're reading um, in Revelation, the things that John was seeing were done as similitudes and visions. Everything is not literal that he's seeing. He's doing a descriptive way of what he understood at the time and putting things out there. So when we're reading about locusts and scorpions and things like that, those were not literal insects and uh, I don't know what they consider I don't know if they consider a scorpion arachnoid or whatever, but they weren't those particular things. The Christians, with their simple, understanding, would take it that way. But we can't fault them because they don't have, complete understanding. All right. But these are what's known as similitudes, man, or metaphorical visions. There's even terms known as zoomorphism, which we'll look at in a little bit, in which we're getting this understanding via John through Revelation. All right. So let's read Hosea 12 in the 10th verse. It says, I have also spoken by the prophets, and I have multiplied visions and used similitudes by the ministry of the prophets. So let's make sure we understand what a similitude is. Similitude. So the Most High is acknowledging that he speaks through the prophets using visions, dreams, similitudes. A similitude is something that closely resembles something, right? An allegory or a parable. The quality or state of being similar or like, resemblance, likeness, or similarity. So everything that we're reading is we're getting things based upon similitude, allegory, right? Not literal. So let's get back over here and we're going to start right away. I'm probably not going to finish the whole chapter. I'll probably do half and then double back and do the other half because it's a lot to cover and to look at and examine. All right. So let's start off. Matter of fact, let's start. If you haven't seen the lesson on Revelation 8, I encourage you to go back, watch that, because then it'll make a little bit more sense as we move forward. Okay. We're going to start with the last verse in Revelation 8 and 13. It says, and I beheld and heard an angel flying through the midst of the heavens, saying with a loud voice, woe, woe, woe to the inhabitants of the earth, by reason of the other voices of the trumpet of the three angels, which are yet to sound. So it's saying that this angel came to the midst of the heavens. He said, whoa, 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 meaning there's three more destructions, three more trumpets that need to be blown. Remember, Revelation chapter 8 covers the first four trumpets. So he says that there's going to be three more trumpets that need to be blown to acknowledge and to show the judgment, the prophecies, and the destructions that the Most High has planned. Now, it says, woe, woe, woe to the inhabitants of the earth by reason of the other voices of the trumpet. So what he's saying is there's going to be a reason for destruction and distress for those that remain that are here on the earth by reason of these incoming trumpets. This fifth, sixth, and seventh trumpet, this angel saying there's going to be a lot of destruction, a lot of reason for anguish. Okay, for reason of the other voices of the trumpet of the three angels which are yet to sound. So he said these have not made their sound yet. Even when we're dealing with, the second and the third trumpet, those have yet to come into full fruition. We see, go back into that lesson. We're hearing about great mountains as being destroyed, grass being burnt up, and you'll see what those allegories are when you go back into the lesson, speaking about the death of men, the destruction of mountainous regions, and within nations. We're hearing about and read about aquatic warfare, warfare through battleships that's on the seashores or whatnot, maritime warfare that's jumping off. Some of the things that we're seeing right now going on over there in Iran and the Strait of Hormuz with America assembling and setting up all of their USS battleships going on over there. From what is it? They got Reagan over there, Ford, USS Ford is over there. They got another one. They've sent their whole fleet over there, the largest fleets that they have, ready for what? Maritime or aquatic or sea time warfare. That's part of the prophecy that we've been reading about. Those things are all being lined up. I showed a video also showing the regions and the island regions over there in the Strait of Hormuz, many of which is mountainous, right? And we're seeing all of those things playing out. So we're just looking at and concentrating on the descriptions and the allegories and the metaphors that the Most High is using regarding these aspects of warfare that's going to take place. Okay. So the angel said that there's going to be three more woes, and woe to the inhabitants of the earth when these things go off. All right. So now let's read chapter 1 of Revelation chapter 9. And it says, and the fifth angel sounded, and I saw a star from heaven unto the earth. A star fall from heaven unto the earth, and to him was given the key of the bottomless pit. So the scriptures is acknowledging that this angel is a star that's falling from heaven, and he was given a key to do what? Unlock the bottomless pit. This bottomless pit is not some, what do they call it? I think in Spanish they call it, what not, quiotes, elotes. No, shit, I forgot. Anyway, not some, endless pit of a long ditch that, people can never find the bottom of or whatnot. No, this is talking about a landmass. This particular aspect is talking about Europe. We'll get that in a second. In other words, that this particular angel is going to unlock the judgments that's going to befall Europe. So let's look at 2nd Ezra, the 5th chapter. And we're going to read verse 24. And this is all the things that the Most High acknowledges as his favorites. Matter of fact, let's read up. And we're going to read verse 23 and 24. That says, and said, O Lord, that bearest rule of every wood of the earth and of all the trees thereof, thou hast chosen thee one only vine, and of all the lands, keyword, of all the whole world, thou hast chosen thee one pit. So what does the Bible describe land masses as? Pits. What was the landmass that the Most High chose? Jerusalem. Remember, the scriptures tell us that Jerusalem is the mother of us all in Ephesians, the 4th chapter. Galatians 4, and I believe 26. So the Most High has one chosen land in the whole world, and he called it a pit. So when we're hearing about this bottomless pit, many of you should know or have an understanding that this bottomless pit is speaking about Europe. Why is it talking about Europe being a bottomless pit? Because Europe has experienced much warfare, death, and destruction. It became a pit throughout its, previous wars, World War I, World War II. Europe has experienced much death and destruction. After the Renaissance period, you dealt with what they call the Black Plague and all that other stuff, where Western Europe in particular is destitute of resources. This is why they have to import energy, gas, some of their food sources or whatnot. Eastern Europe has a lot of resources. Matter of fact, Russia is number one when it comes down to natural resources, not Africa. I've covered that before. But not to get sidetracked on that, but just know that Eastern Europe with Russia and even with Ukraine, because if you remember with the Ukraine war, um, America struck that $500 billion deal for the resources, right? Matter of fact, you know what? I showed it before. So it's talking about this bottomless pit. It's talking about Western Europe. Okay, look at this. Russia holds the world's largest proven natural gas reserves of January 2026, accounting for nearly one third of the global total of 1,688 cubic feet. So we can see all of the resources that Russia has, right? This is why America is so thirsty on trying to take them out and hijack their power structure. They got natural gas, oil, coal, minerals, right? Now, Western Europe, on the other hand, okay, so we see here, see this? Western Europe lacks many natural resources and relies heavily on imports for essential materials, including energy sources like oil and natural gas. This dependency poses significant challenges for the region's economy and sustainability. That's why it's acknowledging it as being a bottomless pit, meaning it has nothing. And it is a place where much death has taken place. So it poses significant challenges for the region's economy and sustainability. These are all things that they get imported: oil, natural gas, coal. So this bottomless pit represents Western Europe and Europe as a whole, because Europe in itself is going to be a key player when it comes down to this warfare that jumps off, i.e., World War III. As we're seeing, the drum's already been beaten for the last almost 4 years, I believe, with the war between Russia and Ukraine. Many nations hinge upon where that goes. We just got through reading last night about, according to American intelligence, Russia is planning to do an invasion of Poland. If they invade Poland, that now becomes an issue with NATO. NATO being the global protector of the world, as they call it, with its 30 plus countries in allegiance with each other, that if one of their nations or one of their countries faces a military attack, all of the other countries must join in and help. I believe that's under the Article 4 or 5. Let me see. It's either 4 or 5. Let's see what 5 is. Yeah, it's 5. Okay, so look at this. Article 5 of the North Atlantic Treaty states that an armed attack against one NATO member, all it takes is one. And here they are talking about Russia is planning on doing an invasion of Poland, and Poland being a uh, NATO nation, right? So that's all it takes for this thing to get set off. So it continues, it says Article 5 of the North Atlantic Treaty states that an armed attack against one NATO member shall be considered an attack against all members, triggering a collective defense obligation for each ally to respond as it deems necessary. Article 5 has been invoked only once, after the September 11 attacks in 2001. All right. So this is why it's acknowledging that when this star drops and this angel unlocks the judgments on this bottomless pit, on this landmass, this is what's going to, this is what's going to be the end results. Let me go back over here. Okay. So let's go back to Revelation 9. So now the fifth angel, it says, I saw a star fall from heaven unto the earth, and to him was given the key of the bottomless pit. So now this angel is to unlock the judgment and the forthcoming warfare that's going to happen in Europe, which is going to be the forefront of World War III. Yeah, we see what's going on in the Middle East with, Iran, the United States, the small hats, Syria, Lebanon, and those things. That's also going to be part of the judgment. But this particular trumpet is going to unlock the greater forms of warfare, because when you're looking at it from perspective of NATO being involved, you're talking about a literal world war. Because why? The majority of the world's nations with strong militaries will be engaging in warfare. When you're dealing with America, Iran, the small hat GMO, that's three countries. China's not getting involved. Latvia and Romania, they're all not getting involved in that. But let it happen over here on the other end, where we're seeing a lot of gun playing warfare going on between between Ukraine and Russia. That holds a higher, the stakes are a bit higher when it comes down to a world war conflict. All right. And this is something too that, before we go back, Matthew 24, let's get the classic understanding regarding the second coming of Hamashiach outside. So uh, Matthew 24:3 says, and as he sat upon the Mount of Olives, the disciples came unto him privately, saying, Tell us, when shall these things be, and what shall be the sign of thy coming and the end of the world? That world means this end of an age, okay? Not the literal end of the world as we know it, the existence of the world we know it. No, the end of an age, okay? Um, Now, and let's just look at that real quick. Make sure everybody clear. So you see the word eon, it means a space of time and age. Okay. So when the disciples was asking, when's going to be the end of the world, meaning when's going to be the end of this particular age? What's going to be the end of this particular time? Who was ruling at that time? The Romans, the white men. They were asking when is this going to end? Because the second Ezra 6, we know that it says Esau is the end of the world and Jacob is the beginning of it that follow it. So they're inquiring of this particular prophecy, when is this going to happen? Now, of course, we know Yahweh Shah said, well, there's a certain amount of things that need to take place before it's all said and done. Number one, he says, and Yahweh Shah answered and said unto them, take heed that no man deceive you. So the element of deception, the element of subtlety is going to be high level in these days and times right now. This is why the advent of AI and the technologies and the things that we see right now is so dangerous, because the deception is out there. You can't trust your eyes no more. You can't trust your ears no more, because of our people always being so enticed with the technologies and things that that come from it. We're always willing to be seduced and want to get involved and give life and limb to be part of the beast system and not be left behind. So Yahweh Shah said we have to be careful that we do not be deceived in these days. Let me drop down, read verse 6 and 7 just to get right to the point. And I'm going to read verse 8. It says, and ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. That's key. I know we like to get hyped up and we like to, observe and see what's going on with the state of affairs with the wars and everything else. And we like to say, oh, it's not too long. We almost out of here. But we have to deduce the scriptures correctly so that we can understand and know that, yes, these things are going on, wars, rumors of wars, but how I said the end is not yet. So none of us should be saying the end is almost here. We're almost out of here. You know, as much as we'd love it to be that way, Yahweh Shah says quite the opposite. He said, once you hear about these wars and rumors of wars, he said, don't be troubled. These things got to come to pass, but this ain't the end yet. That's plain. Verse 7, for nation shall rise against nation. He says some more stuff got to happen. Nations got to rise against nation and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in diverse places. All these are the beginnings of sorrow. So these are just the beginnings of the things that we're seeing. This is why the angel in the 8th chapter and the 13th verse, he said, "Well, woe, woe, woe to the inhabitants of the earth." There, he said, for the next three angels, they're going to really bring the drama. So let's get back Revelation 9, and we're going to pick it up at verse 2, and it reads. Actually, you know what? Let me get one more precept on this pit. You know what? Let's use this one. Let's go to Revelation 17. Revelation 17 and 8, right? So we noticed that the bottomless pit was acknowledged as Europe, but in particular Western Europe. Um, now we see here 17 and 8 of Revelation. It says the beast that was and is not, and shall out of the bottomless pit. So go back and check the Revelation 17 lesson if you don't know and didn't get the proper understanding regarding this. But it says that there's a beast that was and is not. This is talking about Rome. Rome was the fourth beast that's spoken of in Daniel and the second Ezra, the 12th and 11th chapter. This beast that was and is not, what happened? They got taken down during the Dark Ages, fell from power, and it says it's going to ascend out of the bottomless pit. There'll be a resurrection. There'll be a renaissance. It's going to come out of the Renaissance period. Where that take place? In Europe. But it says what? It's going to go into perdition. Perdition meaning destruction. And then it says, and they that dwell on the earth shall wonder, whose names were not written in the book of life from the foundation of the world, when they behold the beast that was and is not and yet is. So it says that people are going to take a wonder. They're going to see how this particular beast had a rise, had a fall, and then it's going to have another rising again, only for it to be destroyed. So when it says that it had the beast that was, again, that was Rome, and it's not, it had its downfall. And then it says that yet is. Why is it yet is? Is because it's been resurrected and rebirthed through America via Great Britain, which is part of that bottomless pit. Okay. So that's the bottomless pit. That's the destruction that's going to be happening. Let's go back to Revelation. And we're going to read verse 2. Now it says, and he opened the bottomless pit, and there arose a smoke out of the pit, as the smoke of a great furnace, and the sun and the air were darkened by reason of the smoke of the pit. So now we're seeing that there's going to be portions of this bottomless pit that's going to be destroyed. There's going to be uninhabitable. Those things are going to come via the nuclear warfare that's going to be taking place. Okay, that's the warfare that's going to make it be like a great furnace. Why can it be considered like a great furnace? Because the furnace continues burning. When you're dealing with nuclear warfare, when you're dealing with nukes and things like that, the fallout, the nuclear waste, the air, everything is polluted, everything is all jacked up, right? So it says that, and he opened the bottomless pit, and there arose a smoke out of the pit, as the smoke of a great furnace, and the sun and the air were darkened by reason of the smoke of the pit. So the plume, the mushroom cloud plumes, the destruction that's going to be happening. This is going to be the end results of the warfare that takes place within Europe and over there in Eastern and Western Europe. The matter of fact, it was Putin. Putin said that through his Satan 2 bombs, he could destroy Great Britain with one blow, France with one blow, right? And completely wipe them off the map. Now, let's look at Genesis 19. We'll read 24. It says, then Yahweh rained upon Sodom and Gomorrah, just so that we can get a visual, we can get a greater understanding regarding this. Then Yahweh rained upon Sodom and upon Gomorrah, brimstone and fire from Yahweh out of heaven. And he overthrew those cities and all the plain and all the inhabitants of the city, that which grew upon the ground. But his wife looked back from behind him, and she became a pillar of salt. And Abram got up early in the morning to the place where he stood before the Lord. And he looked toward Sodom and Gomorrah and toward all the land of the plain, and behold, and lo, the smoke of the country that went up as the smoke of a furnace. So think about the destructions that happened with Sodom and Gomorrah, and that place no longer being inhabitable. There's archaeologists that have shown that the you can still see burned debris over in the landmass, um, and burn markings and etchings in the land of Sodom and Gomorrah to this day. I did a video regarding Sodom and Gomorrah, and they said that Sodom and Gomorrah would be equivalent to it getting hit by a nuke. That's how bad the burn and destruction is. So when you balance out and you weigh out those particular scenarios, and you're trying to visualize and get a greater understanding, as John is saying, look, it's going to be like a pillar, like a smoke furnace. The smoke is constantly coming out the furnace when you're burning the wood or you're burning the coal or whatever. When this bottomless pit gets put in this particular position of destruction, that's what it's going to be like. All right, to make it plain. Now, let's get down to verse 3. It says, "And there came out of the smoke locusts upon the earth, and unto them was given power, as the scorpions of the earth have power." So this is what you get into terminology known as this zoomorphism. Zoomorphism is a type of a type of art and literary device. So this is an art form or a writing style that is used. It says that attributes animal forms or characteristics to humans, objects, or other animals. It contrasts with anthropomorphism, which gives human traits to non-human entities. So when we're reading about the locusts and we're reading about scorpions, these things are not literal. This is a form of a literary device known as zoomorphism, where characteristics or forms of animals are being utilized to describe objects, humans, or other things, or other animals, right? So let's go back. So looking at Europe, getting into warfare, John is seeing all this. He's seeing the smoke going up, the sun in the air is being darkened, meaning that the air quality, the oxygen levels, all that's going to be jacked up because of the smoke and the destructions. Now he says, "And there came out of the smoke locusts upon the earth." So what's flying through the smoke after the bombs get dropped? You see something fly up out of it. "And unto them was given power, as the scorpions of the earth have power." So, some of these things we have to look at it from not only let's look at it from a perspective of this is the type of weaponry that's going to be used. Okay. And we'll look at a couple of those in a second. But let's look at Second Ezra, the 15th chapter. And we're going to read 34 and 35. Okay, so this is one of the prophecies regarding the judgment and destruction that's going to be happening. It's going to be happening over there in the Middle East between the Arabs and the Iranians. As we can see now, the UAE is going against and trying to encourage America to dust off Iran. They've always had beef between each other. They had a peace treaty, I think, in like 2021. China had told them, put the guns and the swords down. You guys are both Muslims. Let's get together so we can get this money and take down the real beast. And they had an agreement for a while, and they haven't had any particular military conflicts. But the Arabs, the United Arab Emirates and whatnot, Ishmael is utilizing America as a proxy and saying, "Hey, we want troops on the ground. We want this to get going." But now that they're seeing that Iran is not folding, they're buckling. You got Qatar saying, "We'll give you some billions of dollars," and all that. So there's ups and downs between their relationship. But as the land masses are being fought over, we're seeing also that there's going to be a similitude being utilized in the form of zoomorphism, with these locusts coming out of the smoke, leaving the destruction that we're seeing, right? So look at this. Second Ezra 15:34 says, "Behold, clouds from the east and from the north unto the south, and they are very horrible to look upon, full of wrath and storm." So these clouds are talking about aerial weapons, jets, drones. Scriptures also call the Most High said He makes the beams of His cloud His chariot. So when we're reading about these clouds, this is just a metaphor or allegory of things that fly in the air that are utilizing destruction. So there's horrible to look upon and full of wrath and storm. Why? Because they're equipped with ICBM missiles. They're equipped with Hellfire missiles. They're equipped with, Satan 2 bombs and things of that nature. Okay. That says, and what's going to happen? They shall smite one upon another, and they shall smite down a great multitude of stars upon the earth, even their own star, and blood shall be, and blood shall be from the sword unto the belly. So it's showing you the death and destruction that's going to be happening, utilizing air warfare. Remember, chapter 8, we read a lot about the ships. Now, 9, we're talking about things that's fighting and flying through the air, right? So even when we drop down and we read verse 41, well, actually, we'll read 40 and 41. It says, the great and mighty cloud shall be puffed up, full of wrath, and the star that they may make all the earth afraid. So who's making stars? No, it says, puffed up full of wrath, and the star that they may make all the earth afraid, and them that dwell therein, and they shall pour out over every high and eminent place a horrible star. So this horrible star is talking about nuclear bombs. That's what's going to get everybody's attention. That's what's going to have everybody in fear. Because guess what? As long as the warfare is going on over there in the Middle East or in Europe or whatnot, people over here is not tripping. But guess what? When you hear a nuclear bomb has been detonated, when you hear ICBM with a nuclear warhead has hit in, let's say, in China or whatever the case may be, that gets everybody's attention. Now we know that the stakes are higher. Now we know extinction level event is on the horizon. When that earthquake hit over there in 2010, with the over there in Japan, and those nuclear power plants was melting down into the water, and they was talking about the trade winds that was blowing over here to the west coast. People were out with Geiger counters, realizing that the nuclear activity and the fallout was actually affecting the air over here back then. It raised up a level. So the danger isn't just over there. Sometimes it's out of sight, out of mind. Oh, that's happening over there where nobody's sure. But when those horrible stars get the bomb, these are the horrible stars. These are the ones that affect everybody, even if you're not there, because the outcome could be, we could be next. What does this mean for our air quality? What's this mean for the food? What's this mean for the power and the energy that's happening? What's it mean for our relatives that's living over in these particular areas? That's what is going to make the whole earth afraid, because now once nukes come into play, everybody in the earth now is concerned. Nobody cares about the little skirmishes and the civil wars and the coups that's going on over there in Africa and Haiti, and they like, oh, that's over there. Doesn't affect my day to day. This will. Verse 41. It says, fire and hail and flying swords. Well, what's a flying sword? The flying sword are missiles. In many waters, that all fields may be full, in all rivers with the abundance of great water. So this is the thing. Fire and hail, what we just get to seeing over there in Genesis 19. Fire, hail, brimstone, these are the things that help destroy Sodom and Gomorrah. Now they're talking about those things are being accompanied by flying swords. So this is the way that the destruction is going to be happening. Okay. Let me get one more in remember, it said that this is going to be carried out by locusts and scorpions of the earth. So let's look at let me see. I think I want Judges. No, that's not what I want. Thought I had another precept on that one. But anyway, hopefully everybody kind of understand regarding that destruction. So let's look at let me look at some examples, right? So notice it said you're gonna get locusts and like the scorpions of the earth. Just looking at some of the weapons, like America has names. They have a locust beam weapon. They have a scorpion weapon. These are all things that they have that we can parallel when the scriptures say, well, dang, John uses this terminology, but at the same time, these things actually exist. Look, anti-tank glider weapons under development, right? Lockheed Martin is doing it. The Scorpion is a low-cost, unpowered, lightweight, compact munition designed to allow a man in a loop to engage a broad target set on the ground with reduced possibility of collateral damage. It can be released from both fixed and rotary wing aircraft, as well as a manned and unmanned airborne platforms. So it can be manned or unmanned, and it flies, and it's tactical. Okay, that's why it says that it can reduce collateral damage, because it's not meant to just blow up and explode everything. You can tactically use these things, because that's one thing that we've got to understand as we continue reading, is that knowing that there's still two more worlds to go, everything can't be over with the fifth. So there'll be, tactical destructions that go on. So it says it can be released from both fixed and rotary wing aircraft, as well as a manned and unmanned airborne platforms. Targets include structures, personnel, lightly armored vehicles, trucks, cars, missile launchers, and artillery or gun positions. Lockheed Martin started the flight test for the program of the Scorpion glider in 2010 of June. Okay, now look at this. They got the AV demonstrates Locust laser weapon system aboard an aircraft carrier. So not only do they have it by aerial, but Esau also even names his particular weapons after, biblical forms of combat. Now it says the Locust delivers effective all-domain protection against emerging drone threats at the speed of light on any platform in any domain for any mission, said John Garrity, Vice President of Directed Energy Systems at AV. Rolling Locust onto a ship and quickly initiating operations facilitates the expanded use of high-energy lasers. Now, mind you, high-energy lasers. Let me catch this real quick. Pete. Secretary of War, Dragon Breath Pete Hegseth. Pete Hegseth got a live look at the Pentagon's laser weapons, high-powered microwave weapons, advanced laser weapons. These are all the things that we're talking about. Look at this. The U.S. military fired several high-energy laser and high-powered microwave weapons for Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth on Tuesday, and he wanted to invest billions of dollars into it. So this is the next level of warfare that's going on. High-energy weapons, microwave weapons, silent weapons for quiet wars, invisible weapons that you can't see. And they said that what were they being utilized for, except for drone defense? Because that's where the warfare is going. It's being highly invested in drone warfare, aerial warfare right now. They're trying to limit, some of the actual fighter pilots that's needed, but they're still going to be utilized. Top Gun and all that, they're still going to be utilized. But massive waves are going to come via these drones. So look here. It says the Vice President of Directed Energy Systems, the AV, rolling Locust onto a ship and quickly initiating operations facilities the expanded use of high energy lasers across the fleet without the need for costly, time consuming ship modifications. This is a game changer for the Navy and for our national security. Okay, so, when you see visuals like this with swarms, right? Swarms of these drones, this is what the scriptures is talking about. When it says that, and there came out of the smoke locusts upon the earth, and unto them was given power as the scorpions of the power have earth. So the same way that a scorpion, have its power on the earth and have its ability to injure, harm, or hurt someone, the same way that these drones do. They don't give total destruction, but they definitely give damage. Okay, look at this. Global civil drone fleet to increase 12.6% a year to 20 to 28. This is the next form of warfare right now, utilizing these drones. All right. U.S. Army Apache fleet reaches 5 million flight hours. So even when you're looking at the flight trajectory and you see what's going on with these Apache helicopters, we'll look into that a little bit more in a minute. But I wanted to look at the drones first, because that's really what we're looking at when you talk about these locusts. We'll look back at that in a minute. Okay, so when you see this, see how it looks like a form of bugs flying all in the air? That's what this scriptures is talking about. Look at this. U.S. is developing swarms of swarms that can attack from land, air, sea, and overturn China's numerical edge. So when you hear about the destruction that the locusts have, they come in massive swarms and they destroy whole crops. They can ruin a whole gardening season. They can take out and initiate a famine at any particular point in time in swarms, right? This is why the Most High hit Egypt with a plague of locusts, swarms of locusts, to destroy all of the food and livestock. So guess what? Once the crops and everything is destroyed, what's the animals? What's the livestock going to eat? What's the humans going to eat? So this is the first stages of um, uh, crippling, an opposition and warfare. When you can take those things out and infrastructures out, that handicaps one's ability to, stand firm when a greater swarm comes. When it comes down to real ICBM missiles and things of that nature, you take out the infrastructure first, cripple them, and then you go in for the kill. So it says the U.S. military is looking to acquire a counter anti-access area denial autonomous drone swarm system that can command other swarms and what essentially translate into thousands of unmanned aerial, surface, underwater, and ground drones, overwhelming enemy military installations. So notice why it said they're going to have power upon the earth, and they're going to be given power just like scorpions that's on the earth. So notice these particular drones, it says that they're going to have aerial, surface, underwater, and ground drones, matching what the scriptures are saying. Similar to the Russian approach to bait and destroy Ukrainian air defenses using drones and cruise missiles, the Defense Advanced Research Project Agency, or DARPA, envisages the proposed autonomous multi-domain adaptive swarms of swarms. So they're calling it IQAhmath. Okay. Look at this. This is what essentially they're talking about. All right. Now let's get back. And we'll get back to Revelation. Let's read it over here. Revelation 9, we're going to pick it up at verse 4. And it says, and it was commanded them that they should not hurt the grass of the earth, neither any green thing, neither any green tree, but only those men which have not the seal of the Most High in their foreheads. So if we remember, back in dealing with Revelation chapter 8, the grass was representing people. Okay, so it says that they wasn't going to hurt the grass or any green thing, because this grass or green thing represents the men that have the seal of the Most High in their foreheads. Okay, so there's going to be a remnant that does not get affected and won't, falter to these particular things. Let's look at Ezekiel. I want Ezekiel 5. No, I want Ezekiel 5. Let's I think I'm gonna say it. Yeah, Isaiah 47. It says, the grass withereth, the flower fadeth, because the spirit of Yahweh bloweth upon it. Surely the people is grass. So we're seeing that there's going to be an isolation of those who get spared from such destruction when things happen. So it's going to be going down in Europe. You're going to, our people scattered throughout the four corners of the earth. There's going to be the elect that gets preserved over there. Look at this in Ezekiel 9 and verse 4. And the Lord said unto him, go through the midst of the city, through the midst of Jerusalem, and set a mark upon the foreheads of the men that sigh and that cry for the abominations that be done in the midst thereof. So what is this particular mark? The mark is the righteousness of the Most High, the seal of the Most High. Those who have not bowed down to the beast system, those who have been committed to keeping the law, statutes, and commandments of the Most High, unwavering, that's been sealed, predestinated. That's who's going to be preserved and spared from this particular destruction that goes on. So Ephesians 1 verse 13 and 14 reads, in whom ye also trusted, after that ye heard the word of truth, the gospel of your salvation, in whom also after that ye believed, ye were sealed with the Holy Spirit of promise, which is the earnest of our inheritance unto the redemption of the purchased possession unto the praise of his glory. So the seal, those that are sealed, the Lord said that they're not going to be hurt. They're not going to be destroyed during this time. That's why it's important for us to make sure that, our like the scriptures say, making our calling sure, that we're being sealed by the word of the Most High through the blood of Hamashiach Yahweh Shai and the faith of Christ and keeping the commandments. That is our sealing. And it goes through continued diligence in maintaining that seal. 1 Corinthians 15, let's read verse 58. This is how you keep that seal. It says, therefore, my beloved brethren, be ye steadfast, unmovable, always abounding in the work of the Lord, for as much as ye know that your labor is not in vain in the Lord. So that's exactly what happens is once we receive that zeal, once we receive that seal of the Most High, we make sure that we don't lose it. We stay committed to it, right? By being steadfast, unmovable, continually abounding in the work of the Lord, not being complacent, not just allowing things that, to move us or whatnot. The Lord said, stay abounding, stay growing, okay, in the work of the Lord, for as much as you know that your labor is not in vain. Yeah, our labor is not going to be in vain, because when it's all said and done and we're counting on the protection and the shielding of the Most High, when all hell breaks loose, that's going to be our reward. That's going to be realizing when we're saying, oh man, our labor hasn't been in vain. We actually made it out. Just when you thought it was over with, just when you thought you was ready to just throw in the towel, and you thought it was, there was no hope. The labors are going to pay off when it's all said and done. All right, all praise to the Most High. Now let's go back. Go back to Revelation 9 again, and let's go back, and we're going to pick it back up at verse 3 and 4 one more time. So notice it's in verse 3. We're going to hear about aerial assaults, helicopters, drones, fighter fleets. These represent the locusts. Okay. And they're going to have power on the ground. We've seen that you got drones on the ground. You've seen that the Scorpion weapons that's grounded on battleships and whatnot. Verse 4 tells us, and it was commanded that they should not hurt the grass of the earth, neither any green thing, neither any tree. So it can't be talking about literal destruction of things, because we just seen that there's going to be power given to them. The earth is going to be, the bottomless pit is going to have smoke and pit, and it's going to be darkened with clouds from destruction. So it's not talking about literal grass and green things and trees, because those things will clearly be destroyed. No, it's talking about people being as grass. And who are those people that's not to be harmed or hurt? Are the ones that got the seal of the Most High on their foreheads. Now, verse 5 reads, you know what? Let me get one more. 2 Timothy. 3:19. Because this is also, not to take light on the seal, right? 2 Timothy 2:19 says, nevertheless, the foundation of the Most High standeth sure, having this seal, the Lord knoweth them that are his, and let everyone that nameth the name Hamashiach depart from iniquity. So, even Christ told us, my sheep hear my voice, and they hear my voice follow after me, in John 10 and 27. So it's already been understood. We've already been vouched for. Most High willing. I don't want to count nothing before it's time. That's why we work. That's why the fear of the Lord and the faith of Hamashiach Yahweh comes into play, because there's no guarantees. But the scriptures say the Lord knows notice them that are his, and let everyone that nameth the name of Hamashiach depart from iniquity. It says, but in the great house there are not only vessels of gold and of silver, but also of wood and of earth, and some to honor and some to dishonor. If a man therefore purge himself from these, he shall be a vessel unto honor, sanctified and meet for the master's use, and prepared unto every good work. Right. And we read that one of those aspects of that last night, dealing with Baruch in the 4th chapter. And it said that we're not to give our honor to another or to a strange nation. Because why? We're the vessels of gold and silver. Most High called us that. We're his silver and his gold. We're the ones who are getting tried through the furnace of affliction as silver and gold are refined. So as we're getting purged and we're bearing these particular gifts, that's where the Most High says this is where we're going to be able to receive our honor. But those of wood and earth, those that are carnal, those that disobey the laws and the commandments of the Most High, given unto idolatry, to fornication, to wickedness, to witchcraft, so forth and so on. The Lord said, those are the ones that will be given unto dishonor. Okay. Now going back to verse 5. Revelation 9, verse 5. It says, and to them it was given that they should not kill them. Right. So who's not going to get put to death? Those who have the seal of the Most High. Right. It says, but that they should be tormented 5 months, and their torment was as the torment of a scorpion when it striketh the man. So if you think about, okay, if a scorpion strikes a man, does that mean he dies? Or will he have some injuries? Will he be afflicted? So I looked it up real quick, and it says what? Scorpion stings are rarely fatal. So just like the scriptures say that, although they won't be destroyed and they'll be preserved from other destruction from the things that's happening, but the Lord said they're going to get hit with some affliction. It's going to seem like they got bit by or stung by a scorpion. Scorpion stings are rarely fatal, especially in healthy adults, but they can be life-threatening to young children and older adults. The bark scorpion is the most dangerous species in the U.S., and severe symptoms can occur, but deaths are uncommon. Now look at this. Scorpion stings are painful, but rarely life-threatening. So what does this equate for us? There's going to be some pain. There's going to be some affliction. That whole Christian pre-rapture what do they call it? Pre-tribulation rapture, where they get beamed up before any affliction, anything goes down. They're going to miss the whole show. They'll be up in the clouds with the Lord, watching the show go down. No, that's not how this thing works. Jeremiah 30 and verse 7 says, alas, for that day is great, so that none is like it. It is even the time of Jacob's trouble. So we're going to get stung. That's part of the purging. That's part of the proving. That's part of the things that we're going to have to go through in order to see our righteous end. So that none is like it. It is even the time of Jacob's trouble, but he shall be saved out of it. So even though we'll be exposed to a lot of torment, notice it says here, not literally 5 months. That's just a dispensation of time that judgment is going to happen. It says, and to them it was given that they should not kill them, but that they should be tormented 5 months. So there'll be a certain amount of time that torment, affliction, destruction, things going to be happening around us. The Lord said these things are going to have to come to pass. He said, but what will be saved out of them all when it's all said and done? It says, and their torment was as the torment of a scorpion when he striketh the man. So let's see what happens when you get stung. Let's look at some symptoms. Arthropods. I call them arachnoids. Arthropods is what a scorpion is. It's a relative of the insects. Now look here. It says symptoms at the site of a scorpion sting may include pain, which can be intense. What did Yahweh tell us? Wars, rumors of wars, famine, pestilence, plague, all this is going to happen. He said, but the end is not yet. So it's going to be intense. There'll be pain, numbness and tingling, slight swelling and warmth. You can have a hard time breathing, muscle twitching or thrashing, usually head, neck, and eye movements, drooling, sweating, slurred speech, nausea and vomiting, high blood pressure, fast heart rate, being restless or excitable, or crying in children that can't be comforted. That's interesting. But then Yahweh said there's going to be weeping and gnashing the teeth. So these are all symptoms that can happen and can affect the whole body from a scorpion sting. But it still said death is highly rare. But that doesn't mean that there won't be some affliction. There won't be some pain. There won't be some times That's intense. There will be affliction. There will be trouble. We just read it. Jeremiah 30:7 about Jacob's trouble. That's going to happen. Okay. Now let's go back over here to let's read second Ezra 16. Let's look at a couple of things that come from the scorpion bite. Second Ezra 16, let's drop down, read 15. We'll skip around in here a little bit. The fire is kindled and shall not be put out till it consume the foundation of the earth. So we just got to reading about fires and smoke and, hail and, all these things is going to be happening during these times of war. It's going to be happening over there in Eastern Europe and Western Europe and Middle East and so forth and so on, right? Once it extends. Like as an arrow which is shot out of a mighty archer, returneth not backward. Even so the plagues that shall be sent upon the earth shall not return again. Woe is me, woe is me. Who will deliver me in those days? Well, what did John the Revelator say? The angel said, woe, woe, woe to him that dwelleth upon the earth. Ezra is even echoing that. And he came before John. One thing for sure, two things for certain, is going to be a time of woes. Verse 18, the beginning of sorrows and great mournings. What did Yahushua say? This is the beginning of sorrows, wars, rumors of wars. Be ye not deceived, false Christ appearing, pestilence, earthquakes in diverse places. He said, this is all the beginning of sorrows. What did Ezra say? This is what Yahushua is acknowledging. This is what he was quoting from. Okay? The beginning of sorrows and great mournings. What we just read about a scorpion sting? There's going to be pain. Crying unceasingly. Beginning of sorrows and great mournings. The beginning of famine and great death. The beginning of wars, and the powers shall stand in fear. The beginning of evils. What shall I do when these evils shall come? Behold, famine and plague, tribulation and anguish are sent as scourges for amendment. Yeah, these are the things that are made for amendment. What's amendment? Amendment meaning to repent and to change, to make amends. Right. See that? The act of changing for the better, improvement, or correction or alteration, as in a manuscript. The process of formally altering or adding to a document or record. Main thing, what we talking about, the act of changing for the better, i.e., repenting. This is what's going to get our people really that kickstart that they need. You understand? It said, behold, famine, plague, tribulation, anguish. That Negroes and Hispanics, man, will always wait to the last damn minute. They'll wait for the walls to crash in, all hell breaking loose, everything going to hell in the handbasket before they decide, okay, it's time to repent. I believe now. This is why those of us who got the zeal and have the seal of the Most High, Lord willing, in advance and been predestined, our awakening has happened on time. We'll have the instant foresight and the understanding of the prophecy when these things go down. The rest of our people that's going to be looking to be corrected, they're going to be scratching their head saying, why, what's happening? Okay. So continuing on, it says, but for all these things, they shall not turn from their wickedness, nor be always mindful of the scourges. So, our people get short-term memory. As soon as something goes away, you're right back to acting a fool again. You can't tell our people nothing, that this ain't the last days. You can't tell our people stop celebrating July 4th. This ain't have nothing to do with you. Your independence, your slavery was still in existence. Our people were still being lynched, hung, burned, tarred and feathered. Lands being stolen and swapped from them. Jim Crow, Dred Scott, you name it. We were still going through massive rebellions, trying to fight off our oppression. And you still tell our people, they still sit back and say, man, but it's just the 4th, man. It's for family, man. It's a good time for us to get together, man. Well, this is a great country, man. Would you rather live back in Africa? Would you rather be poor and living over somewhere else? I'd give me America any day. I love America. Like that's the mentality of our people. So even when all hell is breaking loose, you're still gonna have some knucklehead Negro that's gonna be like, no, I'm not gonna turn from my wickedness. They're gonna be made examples of. Continuing on verse 21, behold, victuals shall be so cheap upon earth that they shall think themselves to be in good case. So, there's still going to be food available. There's still going to be things around, even though family is going to be there, but the family is going to be based upon your ability to buy these things. The inflationary issues with the dollar, replacement employment with AI and everything else, and people killing themselves just to live. There's going to be families based upon that. Doesn't matter if Burger King is selling two burgers for $5. You can't afford it. The rich is gonna say that's cheap. You can't get that. Uh-uh. Remember, even in Revelation 6, and we talked about that, I think a week ago, about the famine that's going to take place, and it says a measure of wheat for a penny. And last week I showed you that a pound of ground beef costs more than the national average of a federal minimum wage, which is $7.50. So although you can say, man, that's pretty cheap, but at $9 for a pound of beef, and you're like, well, I make 750, man. Yeah, that's the difference. So it said they don't think they're being a good case, and even then shall evils grow upon earth, sword, famine, and great confusion. Verse 22. For many of them that dwell upon the earth shall perish of famine, and the other that escape the hunger shall the sword destroy. So there's going to be death from uh, famine, and those that still are eating and going to be able to maintain their bellies. The Lord said they're going to get destroyed by the sword. So destruction is going to be happening. Second Ezra, let's read that in a second. You know what? Let me open up one more, so I'm not going back and forth. Because as they say, desperate times calling for desperate measures. That's what we'll be encountering. Second Ezra 15 and verse 14. It says, woe to the world and them that dwell therein. For the sword and their destruction draweth nigh, and one people shall stand up and fight against another, and swords in their hands. For there shall be sedition among men and invading one another. So remember, it said that you're going to have some that's going to die from the famine, and those that don't die from the famine, they're going to die by the sword. Why? Because there's going to be civil war. There's going to be bedlam in the streets and in the counties and in the countries because of famine, because of plague, pestilence, because of destruction, because of destitute of resources. And it says there's going to be sedition among men. So when you got governmental systems that's in place, people are going to buck up against and fight against those particular systems of rulership because they're going to say they ain't doing nothing for us. The hell with the government. Insurrection. They're going to say sedition. We're turning against the government. Every man for themselves. Mob rule. You dig what I'm saying? Sedition among men and invading one another. They shall not regard their princes nor or kings nor princes. So there'll be an abject rejection of authority. Will not matter. You got a badge on or you got it. It doesn't matter. Those positions of power will be non-existent when everybody's trying to fight to live. And the course of their power, in the course of their actions shall stand in their power. A man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able, for because of their pride, the city shall be troubled. The houses shall be destroyed, and men shall be afraid. A man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, but shall destroy their houses with the sword and spoil their goods. Meaning what? They're going to rob and steal and take from your goods. So I always give advice to brothers and sisters that are prepping or got this stuff in order. Be mindful about who you're letting know what you got and how much you got, because guess what? It does not matter, friends, family. When the ish hits the fan and it comes down to their survival or yours, they're going to have total recall and they're going to say, oh, remember such and such got, yeah, they got all that water, they got all that food. Yeah, I was over there all the time. Yeah, you used to tell me all about that. I used to tell them, man, get out of here. We'll be all right. But guess what? I know he still got it. I know they still got it. You're going over there. Ain't that your cousin? I don't give a damn. Cousin Buzzard. I'm hungry. My kids got to eat. We're family. He better break bread. There's a good Twilight Zone episode called the Shelter, and there's a family and they got their neighbors over and they're having a dinner and they all hanging out and all that. And the host family son comes into the dinner dining room area, and he's telling the family and the friends and the neighbors, hey, on the radio they're saying that we're going to war and the bombs are going to be hitting over here pretty soon. Now the family that had the that was hosting the dinner, they had a bunker, and at the time they told everybody go home, go to your houses, make sure you're secure, blah 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 blah. So the family, they started filling up water, filling up their water, jugs and all that, and moving everything down into the shelter. And when it's all said and done, the neighbors all went to that one house. This is an old one. It's an old one. It's called the shelter. Um, they went back. Let me see if I can find it. All the neighbors ended up, rushing back over there to the house of the neighbors that had the shelter. And that hey, it says it's on Tubi. You can probably catch it on Tubi. Um, but all the neighbors came back over here. See, it says when a nuclear attack appears imminent, several suburban friends and neighbors fight over control of a single bomb shelter. Yeah, because the family that had it, they were sitting back saying everybody beating on their door, let us in, let us in. We're your neighbors, we got kids. And the dude that owned the bunk, he was like, I told you guys, you should have got ready. We don't have room in here. It's not enough oxygen for everybody. We don't have enough supplies. We can't let you in. To the point, man, they started beating down and trying to break down the door, and even the ones that was outside. One of the dudes, I guess he's supposed to be Hispanic or something like that. This cat right here with the mustache, these two got into a fight because this dude was like, man, see, that's what happens. We let you immigrants over here. Like, true colors really came out during that time. They're supposed to be, they're supposed to be the long term neighbors and having, friendly gatherings together and all that other stuff. But guess what? When it came down to survival, all bets was off. The dude got into a fight, pissed off because the guy was an immigrant and he was taking up space over here. The neighbor that had the resources in the shelter buckled down and refused to let his neighbors in. They tried to break down the door and all. I'm gonna leave it at that so y'all can watch it. But it's a very good episode if you want to know when second episode 15 hits and it says that you know there's gonna be invading one another for the lack of where we at um a man not having pity on his neighbor. That's real talk. That episode is very good. If you ain't a Twilight Zone fan, you would like that one if you read this and understand it with purpose. Now, going back, it says, a man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, but shall destroy their houses with the sword and spoil their goods. So they're going to come for that food. So getting back to the point, be mindful about who you let know what you got and all that. Even in that, remember that Leave the World Behind? And what's Julia Roberts was at the store and she seen the Edomite that was preparing. He was putting all the water in his truck and all that, and she was looking like, oh, what's he got? And he looked at her like be mind your business. And she, caught herself and turned her head. And guess who they went to get that medicine for their son? They went over there to him. And at first he wasn't gonna deal with him. He came out with the shotgun, and the Jake was like, hey, Tom, it's me. Like, you worked on my house. We know each other, our family. Like, we need help. And he was like, man, stay right there. Don't come closer. It is what it is. That's what's gonna be going on. Spoiling the goods because of the lack of bread and for great tribulation. So these are the terms that's going to be happening. Lack of bread. It said, now, going back to 2 Ezra 15:22, it says, now, for many of them that dwell upon the earth shall perish of famine, and the other that escape the hunger shall the sword destroy. So even the ones who escape from the hunger, mean what? They got food, they got the stores, they got everything lined up, but they're not able to withstand the incursion of the hungry mobs and the zombies out there that's willing to do whatever to feed their bellies. You understand? Verse 23, and the dead shall be cast out as dung, and there shall be no man to comfort them. For the earth shall be wasted and the city shall be cast down. So there's going to be complete, utter destruction going on in these cities. You see in The Walking Dead and all the other stuff, like those type of wasteland scenarios. Mad Max, like that's what's going on. I said the dead's gonna be cast out like dung. Like you see dog poop out on the grass or out on your you walking around or whatever, and it's just all over the place. Like that's what it's gonna be like. That's gonna be bodies stacking up. And the smell is a whole nother thing, a dead body. Let's drop down. Second Ezra 16 is a long chapter, a lot of details in it. I'm just going to highlight a couple things. Now, verse 33 says, the virgins shall mourn, having no bridegrooms. The women shall mourn, having no husbands. Their daughters shall mourn, having no helpers. So look at this. It's showing you how the attacks is going to be going on amongst the men. There's going to be, we just got the reading before. There's going to be sedition amongst men. They're going to be fighting, friends fighting one another, all that other stuff, right? The women are going to be left without. So for that strong black woman and all that, I don't need no man. Oh yeah, you gonna find out the hard way when you're desiring for one. Most I said a good man's gonna be more precious than the fine gold of Ophir. You gonna try to find a good one. You better get in line and get prepared. I don't share my man. Well, you gonna learn. Isaiah 4:1 says, in that day you gonna ask the Most High to send you a man that just can take away your approach. You don't care if he got 2 wives, 3 wives. Let me be called by his name so I can get under that umbrella of safety and protection and leadership and guidance. Because when the time comes, the Lord said, virgins going to be mourning because why? There's going to be a shortage of men. There's not going to be no future wedding plans going on. Men are going to be too preoccupied trying to survive, protect their families, or if not, dead. The women shall mourn having no husbands. Their daughters shall mourn having no helpers. Verse 34, in the wars shall their bridegrooms be destroyed and their husbands shall perish of famine. And what's so cold about that is we know that they already have conscription going on in Europe and Germany and other countries where they already got the draft on deck. Remember, America has also said that they're going to have an automatic registration for the draft starting in December. So starting in 2027, people of military age, young men of military age, I believe up to 20, I think it's 25, are automatically going to be registered for the draft. They used to send it in the mail and tell you it's your your lawful obligation. You got to sign up, and when you get your driver's license in certain states, they automatically register you. Now they're not giving no options. They're already saying that we're going to need bodies. So once that goes down, let's look at that real quick. I want to make sure I got the age right and all that. Yeah, there you go. Automatic draft registration in the U.S. will begin December of 2026, replacing the requirement for men ages 18 to 25 to register themselves with the Selective Service System by using existing government databases instead. Registration does not mean immediate military service. A draft would only be activated if Congress and the president officially reinstate conscription. So let that sink in. These young men of marriageable age to start families, 18 to 25 are automatically going to be registered. And if the time comes and they push the panic button, they say conscription, draft on deck, we're at war, we need everybody we can get out there. Esau is going to push that panic button, man. I got sons that fit within that age range. I'm already thinking like, escape plan. As what's the name? Schwarzenegger and what's the other? Rocky. Stallone made that movie because one thing for sure, two things for sure, we know that this is going to happen. right? And he said, just think about the youngsters that hate the Most High. They could. Oh yeah, that's a fact. And well, what better way to get these little gremlins off the streets, man, from shooting each other and acting a damn fool? Okay, well, enlist them and train them and get their ass out there and go fight in that war. See how much they like it. They love shooting each other. They love killing each other, wounding each other, maiming each other. But then when Esau says, well, you get over here and you do it for me. Oh, no, I don't want to do that. Please, Mr. Boss Man, no. They're going to scoop up all them little gremlins off the streets. So when we see this type of thing go down, where there's be a shortage of men, why? Because they're going to war. And if that don't go down, the Lord said there's also going to be famine. Well, men are not going to be able to provide, and that there's going to be a shortage of resources for men to be able to supply for their families. That's real troublesome times. Think about it. Let's drop down. Let's keep some hope, though. Let's get some faith into the mix. Remember, even in Jeremiah 30:7, it said that even though it's Jacob's trouble, the Most High said he will deliver us out of it all. But we have to maintain. We have to keep the commandments. We got to be sealed in the Most High. All right, dropping down, read verse 73 down to verse, we'll just read down to 77. Then shall they be known who are my chosen, and they shall be tried as the gold in the fire. Hear, O ye my beloved, saith the Lord, behold, the days of trouble are at hand. Remember that, Jeremiah 37, Jacob's trouble. The days of trouble are at hand, but I will deliver you from the same. Be ye not afraid, neither doubt, for the Most High is your guide, and the guide of them who keep my commandments and precepts, saith the Lord Yahweh. Let not your sins weigh you down, and let not your iniquities lift up themselves. So the Most High said, maintain and be balanced. Don't let your sins weigh you down. What's that mean? Make sure you're always striving for repentance, seeking his face 10 times or more, always trying to abound and be better. Don't always consider yourself doomed because you fell or you stumble or you committed a sin out of ignorance or whatever the case may be. The Lord said, don't let those things weigh you down. Self-condemnation is the fastest tool that Satan can use against you to tell you you are unworthy and get out. Come back to me out here in the world. Live it up. It's over for you. But it also said, and let not your iniquities lift up themselves. So don't get prideful in your grace and in the mercy that the Most High has given us. Don't let your iniquity, don't let your sins lift themselves up and overtake you also. Okay? Very important to stay balanced in that. Verse 77, woe be unto them that are bound with their sins and covered with their iniquities, like as a field is covered over with bushes. So those that are completely wicked and reject the laws of the Most High, that are bound and are condemned, are imprisoned by their sins, and they refuse to seek and escape. They refuse to be loose from those things, and they just overtaken with sin, iniquity, and unrighteousness. The Lord said, woe to them. And the path thereof covered with thorns that no man may travel through. All right. So, I'll read 78. It is left undressed and is cast into the fire to be consumed therewith. So yeah, you're talking about the lake of fire and the destruction that's going to be happening for all those that's covered with and bound with iniquity and sin. That's what the end result is going to be for them. Okay. Let's go back over here to Revelation. Let's pick up verse 9 again. Chapter 9. All right. Now it also says in verse 6, it says, and in those days shall men seek death and shall not find it, and shall desire to die and shall flee from them. So it's going to be so bad that people will desire to die rather than to live. Okay. Look at this. This is another video I want to show you about the drone swarms.
We gaan stunten met aanmerken tijdens de stuntweken van Hoogvliet. Magnum, alle soorten 1 plus 1 gratis. Lipton 2 plus 3 gratis. En Joma voor slechts €1,99. Dus vliegensvlug naar Hoogvliet. Daar word je toch blij van?
Wow, what the heck is that? Now see, these are drones in the sky. Now do you see why John the Revelator said, I'm seeing these things in the sky, they look like locusts flying. Now this is a drone incursion, right? And now this is I think this is North Korea. They're showing their new weapon that is supposed to be geared at taking out swarms of drones. So you see here dozens of drones approaching at low altitude from about 1 kilometer away, shot down within seconds. And you see how they dropping like flies? Then you also see why the Most High talks about the stars of heaven falling. Just look at the visual. Don't these look like stars in the sky right now? I don't know about that. That look like AI.
군집 드론의 위협을 정확히 파악하고 현재 운용 중인 전력을 최대한 활용하여 효과적인 대응수를 발전시켜 나갈 것입니다.
So this is why you can see the parallels of the locusts or whatnot being utilized in this vision that John was receiving, this revelation. Okay. Now let's look at this. There's also seeing that the helicopters and whatnot. We'll look back at these in a minute. But I wanted to get to this. Okay. I played this video a while back when I did a different class about America being destroyed, how it's going to be destroyed. But listen to this. Now, notice it says in Revelation 9:6, and in those days shall men seek death and shall not find it, and shall desire to die, and death shall flee from them.
Nuclear war wouldn't be that bad. If Russia launched 1,000 of their nuclear bombs at the United States and I was here in New York where I am now, I would die instantly, so I wouldn't really know it happened. Is that true?
I think you would want to die instantly. There's a quote from Nikita Khrushchev, the former premier of the Soviet Union, and he said, after nuclear war, the survivors would envy the dead. Because there is no more law and order. There is no government. The bunkers that the people in the military command and control centers would be in, those are going to only function for as long as there's gasoline to run the diesel generators. And then those people are going to have to come out. And who's left? It's man returning to the most primal, most violent state as people fight over the tiny resources that remain. They're all malnourished. Everybody's sick. And most people have lost everything and everyone they know.
Yeah, so you see that?
Across America and Europe.
These are the things that we just got to read in 2nd Ezra 16. This is why they're saying that people are going to desire to die rather than or seek death rather than to continue on and living. Because mostly everybody that they know is going to be destroyed. There's going to be bedlam in the streets. There's going to be no order, no structure, anything left. Famine, pestilence. There's going to be high disease rates. You got nuclear fallout all over the place. Don't nobody want to live in that? They're like, damn, how come I couldn't have a fast death? Now look at this. Can a human survive a nuclear bomb from different distances? So this lets you know that there are going to be some survivors.
Can a human survive a nuclear blast at different distances? 1 mile. At this distance, humans would face catastrophic effects. The immediate blast, extreme heat, and intense radiation exposure would result in almost certain death. 10 miles. Even at this distance, humans would experience devastating consequences. The blast wave would cause severe injuries or fatalities, and the intense heat and radiation would pose significant risks to human health. 100 miles. The immediate blast effects would be less severe at this range, but there could still be injuries or fatalities from the shockwave. The risk of radiation exposure would be lower, but there could be potential long-term health risks, especially if there is fallout. 1,000 miles. At this distance, the immediate blast effects and radiation exposure to humans would be significantly reduced. The impact on human health would be much less severe. However, there could still be potential health risks from fallout, depending on environmental factors.
So it shows you that nuclear fallout that could be happening. They went from everywhere from 1 mile to 1,000 miles. So imagine if a nuke hits New York. New York is like 3,000 miles away from us. That's still going to devastate a lot of the East Coast, in particular, cities and counties within New York. But for us on the West Coast, we'll still have the same worries because guess what? If there's nuclear fallout and them trade winds blow over here to the West Coast, like that's going to affect the farms, the crops. It's going to affect the air quality, all of that. You can still have radiation poisoning. You can still die from the cancers or whatnot, long-term effects of exposure. Especially those in the tri-state area, what have you. That's just one bomb. Now imagine if, multiple bombs get launched over here. That's why Trump is over here talking about he wants the Golden Dome set up. So he can try to, intercept them. So imagine what goes on over there in Europe. They're going to get the same thing. Middle East, so forth and so on. Desiring for death and not going to be able to find it. Revelation 6 and 16. And we'll read 15 and 16. And the kings of the earth and the great men and the rich men and the chief captains and the mighty men and every bondman and every free man hid themselves in the dens and in the rocks of the mountains. So, all these particular bunkers that's getting set up, the rich men and all that, the chief captains, they're going to have the military set up. You're going to have bondmen in there as well, because you're going to need servants. They're going to need servants and all that in any particular areas. Free men, you're going to need some in there for repopulation purposes. They got it all figured out. Doctors, lawyers, engineers, all them they're going to try to, preserve. Thinking that they're going to build the next civilization when it's all said and done. So these are the ones who's going to have privy and access to these particular bunkers, the governmental bunkers that's being set up, let alone, the rich man that got his own private bunker set up. All the little Hollywood stars got their stuff lined up. But when them things get to hitting and them shockwaves and them earthquakes happen, what they going to say? And said to the mountains and rocks, fall on us and hide us from the face of him that sitteth on the throne and from the wrath of the Lamb. So they said they want the rocks to fall on them, just destroy us, kill us. We don't want it. If we got to come up out of here 2-3 years later, it ain't worth it. We thought these bunkers were going to save and preserve us. No. They're going to still want to seek death because of the destruction. And, they're listening to shortwave radios and ham radios, listening to what's going on outside. They'll be like, man, there's a hell out there. We got no chance of living. Let's read Job 3. And you know what? Man, this is good chapter 2. I like reading this in the NLT too. Let me read this in the NLT real quick for y'all. Job 3. And I'm gonna read 13. We'll read down. Now this is Job lamenting and his, him being remorseful for dealing with what he's dealing with, all the afflictions, everything that was going on with him. Now he's already starting to second guess and question and looking at his life, and he's like, damn, I wish I had died at birth, man. I wouldn't be going through all of this. But look at this. He says, had I died at birth, I would now be at peace. I would be asleep and at rest. I would rest with the world's kings and prime ministers whose great buildings now lie in ruins. I would rest with the princes, rich in gold, whose palaces were filled with silver. Why wasn't I buried like a stillborn child, like a baby who never lives to see the light? For in death the wicked cause no trouble, and the weary are at rest. Even captives are at ease in death, with no guards to curse them. Rich and poor are both there, and the slave is free from his master. Oh, why give light to those in misery, and life to those who are bitter? They long for death, and it won't come. They search for death more eagerly than for hidden treasure. See, these are people who's being tormented, people that are being afflicted, people that are going through things. They longing for death, but it won't come. They look for death more eagerly than they would treasure. That's why Job was like, damn, if I was stillborn or deaf or died, I'd be at peace. I'd be amongst all of those that don't have no troubles or no problems no more in life. But guess what? At the end all be all, you got those that's longing for death and it won't come. And that's what the spirit is going to be when all hell breaks loose back in Revelation chapter 9 and that fifth trumpet gets blown. Now, mind you, this is only the fifth trumpet. That's the first woe. Good Lord. We say, how much worse can it get, IQ? Lord only knows. Continuing on in verse 7. And the shapes of the locusts were like unto horses prepared unto battle. And on their heads were, as it were, crowns like gold, and their faces were as the faces of a man. Excuse me, faces of men. So this is what John is seeing. So he said that now he's seeing the shapes of these locusts. It's flying in there. He said, were like horses prepared unto battle. So remember, the horses were the ones that led the charge. The horses were the ones that, were utilized in warfare. Chariots being pulled by the horses, armies being led out that way. So he's looking at it from a perspective of war. He's saying these are the things that's out here leading the charge. They're like the horses. Job 39, we're going to read 19 and 21. It says, hast thou given the horse strength? Hast thou clothed his neck with thunder? Canst thou make him afraid as a grasshopper? The glory of his nostrils is terrible. So it's showing you that the strength is the representation of the horses, right? Just like you have that whole scenario about horsepower. This is what John is saying. The shapes of these locusts was like horses prepared unto battle. They were strong, a mighty presence. Verse 20, it says, canst thou make him afraid as a grasshopper? The glory of his nostrils is terrible. He paweth in the valley and rejoiceth in his strength. He goeth on to meet the armed men. So this is showing you that this is a case of warfare. And the strength is a representation of the horses. Joel 2 and verse 4. Now, we'll read verse 2 down to 4. It says, a day of, let's start at 1. Blow ye the trumpet in Zion and sound an alarm in my holy mountain. Let all the inhabitants of the land tremble, for the day of Yahweh cometh, for it is nigh at hand. A day of darkness and of gloominess, a day of clouds and of thick darkness. I mean, where is the Christians getting this whole scenario of Christ coming in the clouds with turtle doves or floating on cloud 9 and, coming down with the peace sign in his hand saying, my children, stop fighting. Everybody be peaceful. I love you. Everyone. Come with me, those who want to believe and live. No, it says the day of the Lord is darkness, gloominess, days of cloud, thick darkness, as the morning spread upon the mountains. A great people and a strong. There have not been ever the like. So we just got to we read that in Daniel, the 12th chapter. Jeremiah 30 says Jacob's trouble is going to be happening like a time like no other. Now we're seeing the day of the Lord is going to be the same thing. We're constantly hearing that same scenario. Neither shall be any more after it, even the years of many generations. A fire devoureth before them, and behind them a flame burneth. The land is as the Garden of Eden before them, and behind them a desolate wilderness. Yea, and nothing shall escape them. The appearance of them is as the appearance of horses, and as horsemen shall they run. So this is also showing, the aspect of war, strength, and destruction that's going to be happening during the day of the Lord's judgment. Okay. So when John is seeing these horses, and we read about the 4 horsemen in Revelation, and the seals, this is part of that, this precepts to that. Okay. And the judgment going forth from the Lord. Now it says that they, that the shapes of locusts were like unto horses preparing unto battle, and on their heads were the crowns like gold, and their faces were like the face of men. So what was John seeing when he said they had the faces like men? So hold on, it's not the right one. Let's go back. So these are the type of things when you're seeing this army of horses, the helicopters, the wings, when you see those propellers blowing and flapping like that, that's why it look like the locust. When you see the locust, them wings are flapping, 100 miles an hour so that they can fly. This is what he's seeing. He said these were like horses going to battle. So here they are out in formation. They're flying through, right? Now he said that they had crowns like gold, and their faces were like the faces of men. So when he's seeing through the windshields. He's seeing the heads of men on there. You can see like these gold visors that they have and the helmets that they have on. Some may be gold, some may have the visors on. He's seeing a reflection of gold that's coming up. He said, but he says like men sitting on these horses. that's going into battle, but they're in the air, flying like locusts, and they're bringing swift and strong destruction. Right? This is what he's saying. Now, let's go back to Revelation 9 and verse 8 now. It says, and they had hair as the hair of women, and their teeth were as the teeth of lions. So when it says hair like the hair of women, he's seeing the streaks of the the exhaust flames or whatnot flowing behind it. You hear that whole saying of somebody's hair blowing in the wind or flowing through the air, or her hair so long as floating down her back, or walking behind her or flowing behind her. That's what he's talking about. When you see these streaks coming down from the airplanes and from the helicopters, from the drones, that's the hair flowing like women. It's flowing through the air as these things are moving in the air going to war. Okay. And it said it had teeth like lions. So the teeth like lions is representing the power that they have and possess. These things are armed with ICBM missiles, Hellfire missiles. They're armed with Kinzhal missiles. The Kinzhal missile is like, when we'll read later on, it's going to speak about these particular weapons that come out the mouths of these horses. They said they're going to open up the mouth like a lion, and what comes out is they're going to have tails, and they're going to be moving like serpents. A Kinzhal missile is I think it's Russian technology, to where they have these missiles that move like snakes, and the radar can't pick it up. They can't get them intercepted missiles. They damn near unstoppable. But that's for later on. That's for later on in the chapter. But these things are what they're holding on to. That's the power. That's the strength. That's the teeth. When those ICBM missiles open up, and they open up to open up, they have the nuclear warheads around. They look like teeth, and then they let out the nuclear warheads. It ain't just like a bomb that just hits the ground and the earth blows up. No, these missiles fly, they open up, and then they let out. And then the destruction, sometimes they blow up before they hit the ground, and that causes shockwave destruction and on everything that's beneath it. Then you have some that actually hit the ground and penetrate miles into the earth. So that's the teeth, meaning the strength, the weaponry that they come with. It says, in the teeth were as the teeth of lions. So let's read Proverbs 13:14. It says, there is a generation whose teeth are as swords, and their jaw teeth as knives. So what we're reading about these teeth is talking about weapons. It's talking about the destructive nature in which it can be used. It's a metaphor, right? So when it says it got teeth like lions, I mean, they got some powerful swords or weapons that they're equipped with. It says to devour the poor from the earth and the needy from among men. Okay. Now going back, let's open up this one so we can flip flop again. And we're going to read verse 9. It says, and they had breastplates as it were breastplates of iron, and the sound of their wings as the sound of chariots of many horses running to battle. So the breastplates is the armor. Breastplates is the metallic shell that's surrounding these drones and these helicopters and these fighter jets or whatnot. That's what the iron represents. The breastplate is the protective, shielding that comes along with it, right? So that's why I said they like had breastplates of iron. You've got righteous breastplates from the Levites, the Urim and the Thummim, that had the 12 stones and everything else. But then you also had, I'm gonna leave that one there. You also had breastplates that was set up for warfare, the armament that our people had to utilize back in the days. Let's look at First Maccabees 3. First Maccabees 3, we're going to read 1 down to 3. It says, Then his son Judas, called Maccabeus, rose up in his stead, and all his brethren helped him, and so did all they that held with his father, and they fought with cheerfulness the battle of Israel. So he gat his people great honor, and put on a breastplate as a giant, and girt his warlike harness about him, and he made battles, protecting the host with his sword. So, and look at this, verse 4. In his acts he was like a lion, and like a lion's whelp roaring for his prey. So that's zoomorphism, right? This is where you see he's not literally a lion jumping out there roaring and all of that, right? Or anthropomorphism, where they say that a human has animalistic traits. That's anthropomorphism, where they said his acts were like a lion and a lion's whelp. Now, zoomorphism, where they saying, well, it's a insect or an animal that's being used to describe an object. Remember? But the point of the matter is that the utilization of the breastplate was for armor for warfare, right? So this is what he's saying. Now he said that these things, and they said they had, where we at? Now it says, and they had breastplates, so that's the armament that's on them, as breastplates of iron, and the sound of their wings was as the sound of chariots of many horses running to battle. So imagine you hear the storming feet of horses. Right? But guess what? What do you hear from these helicopters? Sound like a bunch of, feet. That's what he's hearing too. He said it sounds like, man, many chariots with horses, man, running the battle. So he's hearing the sound of these great machines. He's seeing the hair, like he said, man, whatever what they flying, man, there was things flowing behind it like hair like a woman. And I could see a face of a man inside there, but they had it was gold helmets on them, and they had all kind of weaponry, right? Now dropping down to verse 10. Verse 10. It says, and they had tails like unto scorpions, and there were stings in their tails, and their power was to hurt men 5 months. So there's going to be a dispensation of time that this warfare is going to be jumping off. And it says they're going to have stings in their tails, meaning what? There's also weaponry that they have like this. This is what they call a stinger missile, like a scorpion, right? These shoot down these are anti-aircraft missiles. They shoot them out of here, called stinger missiles, right? This is why it's saying, oh, well, there's going to be locusts and things flying in the air, and then you're going to have some scorpions on the ground, tails like scorpions on the ground that's going to be utilized to shoot them down. So this is the dynamic of the warfare that's going to be going on. See, this is, the mechanism that launches the Stinger missiles. Matter of fact, let me just show y'all real quick before we Stinger missiles. You see that? Same thing. And they talking about, and they had tails like other scorpions, and there were stings in their tails. What's the stings? It's the missiles that's coming up out of here. FIM 92 Stingers, right? Surface to air missiles. This is the counter to the aircraft, that's flying up in the skies. Okay. And it said they're going to be going to war for 5 months. So for this dispensation of time, this is the type of warfare that's going to be going on. Air to ground warfare that's going to be happening. Okay. All right. That's enough on that one. Let me see. Where we at? Yeah. All right. I'm gonna wrap it up. I'm gonna read down to 12, and then we'll close it out. Okay. So now continuing on, it says, and they had a king over them, which is the angel of the bottomless pit, whose name in the Hebrew tongue is Abaddon, and the Greek tongue hath his name Apollyon. So this is the angel that's overseeing this warfare. Now, Abaddon means destruction, and Apollyon means the destroyer. So this is the angel that is going to be overseeing, that has the power and the authority to allow this destruction to take place. This is the power that the Most High has given this particular angel to allow this destruction to go forth. Okay. So that's what Abaddon means in the Hebrew. It means destruction. And in the Greek, it means destroyer. Verse 12, it says, one woe is past, and behold, there come 2 woes more hereafter. All right. So there you go. First woe is done. The Lord said there's 2 more that comes after that. So Revelation 8, we've seen maritime and aquatic warfare with ships and everything else going on, bombs and things happening then. Now this first woe we got, Revelation 9, talking about a particular area in Europe where warfare is going to be taking place, but it's going to be aerial, and it's going to be air to ground going down, and it's got an angel over it that says destroy. So these are the times of destruction. These are the times of when that 5th trumpet blows. You know, Jacob's trouble is going to be into effect. Everything's going to be going down. The aftermath that happens is going to be one for the ages. And only those that are sealed with the seal of the Most High is going to be able to escape out of it and understand it and endure it when it's all said and done. I pray that all of us find ourselves in that moment with the seal of the Most High God on us, being protected and shielded from said destruction, man. All praise, honor, and glory to the Most High. While y'all was side with that, I'm going to say shalom. Prayerfully, this was edifying. All that good stuff, like, share, subscribe, etc. Sister Hashemai, I know you had asked me about the Cash App. Here it goes one more time. And for those who want to send your alms deeds, obviously, please do so when the sun is down. We do not do money exchanges or any business affairs on the Sabbath. Oh my goodness, there go these maniacs, man. They already starting. We don't do any business on the Sabbath. Do so after the Sabbath, man. Your alms deeds would be appreciated and welcomed. All praises to the Most High for your charity. $sign IQAhmath. That's the Cash App, sis. I know you asked about it earlier. There you go. And for anybody else that may need it, don't know it. All right. So with that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and slide on out of here, man. All praise to the Most High. See y'all on the next go round. Shalom.